And you mentioned, I mean, Kovalchuk being this close personal friend, I mean, a genuine friend of President Putin, and spending this period in lockdown together. And we all remember the images of Putin sitting at the end of these incredibly long tables during meetings with his officials, and the just extraordinary lengths he went to protect himself from anyone else for fear of getting COVID. But Kovalchuk is this person who he is spending this time kind of in lockdown with. So do you think during that period of COVID lockdown is when basically Putin got the idea and formed the idea that he was going to completely invade Ukraine, which then leads to the war that he launched last year?
Yeah, I'm sure that he started preparing for this war during COVID. I think that it was very gradual. I think they definitely they had a plan for much. Um, they had the initial plan of Putin to take the eastern Crimea uh, was being discussed at least since 2008, because we
Mm.
know that in 2008 he told to President George W. Bush during the NATO summit in Bucharest. He said publicly that if Ukraine is going to join NATO, it will join without Crimea and the East. So that's the first time on the record he publicly announced that he was going to take Crimea and the eastern Ukraine. But gradually his plans were changing, and actually, yeah, COVID was the, if not turning point, the very important step, because he really was isolated. He really the number of sources of his information has changed a lot, and he started relying a lot to the imperial ambitions of Kovalchuk, and at the same time of on the information he was getting from another his Ukrainian friend, Viktor Medvedchuk, who used to be many years ago the chief of staff of Ukrainian President Kuchma, but mostly known in Ukraine and in Russia as Putin's special representative in Ukraine, Putin's man in Ukraine, Putin's he has not become the puppet ruler of Ukraine. But if Putin's plan could have been fulfilled, and if he had taken Ukraine, Kiev within 3 days, that's Medvedchuk who would become the puppet president of Ukraine. So Kovalchuk and Medvedchuk were still able to talk to Putin during COVID, and they were the most important sources of his information about Ukraine. And then there was a very important psychological blow also in 2020. There was. It was not a revolution, but it was almost a revolution in Belarus. The fact that Belarusian dictator Alexander Lukashenko was nearly overthrown by the Belarusian civil society, by the popular uprising, made a very shocking. That was a shock for Vladimir Putin, and proved to him that he needs to get rid of the current Ukrainian president. He needs to do something to Ukraine, because that's a threat to his authority. That's a threat to his to him being in power. And actually, the fact that he was really humiliated by the leader of Russian opposition, Alexei Navalny, with his documentaries about an attempt of poisoning of Alexei Navalny. That was another argument for the full-scale invasion, and it's not a coincidence that the moment when Navalny was arrested in Russia, the real propagandist preparation for the war has started.
Right.
And Margarita Simonyan, who is head of RT in famous RT TV channel, claimed that we need to take Donbass back home. That was January 2021. So they already knew in January 2021 that the war is going to happen.